Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're all having a great start to 2024. Happy New Year to everyone and thanks for tuning in. So I wanted to do some of the main mistakes people make when they're setting their fitness New Year's resolutions. So the new year, we're going to see a huge influx of people hitting the gym as always in January. And I see a lot of the same mistakes repeated over and over again because by February, three quarters or more of those people have already given up. And there's pretty standard reasons why that happens. A lot of it's to do with the goals we set ourselves when we start off on this journey on January the 1st. So I think the main reason people give up is through lack of obvious results. So I would say firstly to adjust your expectations accordingly. No one's going to get results in the first 3 or 4 weeks, or they're certainly not going to be hugely noticeable. And I think that's one of the reasons people just quit, is because they kind of think, I've been doing the gym for 3.5 weeks. I look in the mirror, I don't see much change. That's it, I'm going to pack it in. And sure enough, you're not going to see much change. Change is going to take months and it comes slowly. If you saw immediate changes in 2 or 3 weeks, then everyone in the world would look amazing, wouldn't they? Because that would be so easy. You could obviously just do a few sessions in the gym every week, and in 3 weeks time you look great, and in 6 months time you look like a fantastic male model, and that's it, job done. Life's not like that. So I think to avoid disappointment, the best way to start out is to kind of know where you're going with that and know that what you're undertaking is a long-term lifestyle change. It's not a short-term solution. Be honest with yourself. The second thing I think people do is they go all in right away. And, I've spoken to quite a few people that make a few New Year's resolutions and they like, right, I'm going to cut my calories down to 800 a day, or the diet that they're going to do, it's I'm only going to have like protein shakes, or I'm only going to drink soup or whatever, and I'm going to fast 5 days a week, and it's all really extreme stuff. And I get that's because they want faster results, which is kind of back to where we just were. And also they want to feel like they're really doing it, they're really getting stuff done. The problem with that is that you end up painting yourself into a corner, because there's only going to be so long you're able to keep that going for. It's just physically not possible to exist on such low calories, certainly not in any healthy way, and your body will start sending out crazy hunger signals to you, and it will be incredibly difficult to keep that up. You will also be burning massive amounts of muscle tissue, so when you do see weight loss on the scales during that first month, if you've really heavily restricted your calories, you're probably seeing a deterioration in muscle tissue as well. That's going to be bad for your long term, because if you deteriorate what muscle tissue you have, that muscle tissue is great at burning calories. The more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn not doing very much. If you're just moving around generally in the day, your basic metabolic rate is what we call it. The amount of calories you go through just to get through the day is going to increase the more muscle tissue you hold. So if you start off by eradicating what muscle tissue you have, you're taking a step backwards, because you're going to be burning less calories as your basic metabolic rate going forward. That's not good. Secondly, you're obviously going to get weak if you do that, and you're really going to be weak also from the fact that your body is just not intaking enough calories. So if you're also inputting a hardcore exercise regimen on top of this crazily calorie controlled diet, then chances are it's going to be very, very unpleasant to try and carry out that exercise regimen, and you're not going to be able to do it to the best of your abilities. If you want to build muscle, which I recommend every single person does, whether they're young, old, whatever, that's going to be a great benefit to fat loss. It's going to be a great benefit to longevity. We know all that from medical studies. So if you want to build muscle, then the key is to consume enough calories so that you can actually do a decent exercise carry it out properly with good intensity and go home and feel like you've really achieved something, rather than exercising until you feel absolutely exhausted and then you're kind of burnt out for the next 2 or 3 days. And that's what I hear from a lot of people when they start off on these hardcore regimens that they've set themselves. They just burn out, you know, they're absolutely exhausted, they're finding it hard to work, they're tired the next day at work, and that's not going to be they're not going to be able to carry that on for very long. The other problem with stripping your calories back so quickly is that your metabolic rate will adjust itself, and you're going to find that fat loss slows down. This is very, very common for people that do extreme diets. That's why they tend to yo-yo diet. If you strip your calories back too much, in about 2 to 3 weeks, the body will make an adjustment. And this happens, it's a survival mechanism, you know, because back in the days when we didn't have supermarkets and food freely available, you might have been in the depths of winter, not had many calories available at all. If your body couldn't adjust to that situation, you would have just dropped dead. And that's obviously not an ideal situation for the body to be in. So over time it adapted, and it will slow its metabolic rate down in order to preserve as much energy as possible. And it will preserve body fat, it will preserve muscle tissue, but it does that by slowing everything down. So you're burning through a lot less calories, and you're not going to have as much energy as you normally would. The fat loss slows up because of this reduction in metabolic rate. And where do you go from there? You know, how do you get more fat loss after that's happened? Well, the only way really after that is to restrict calories further or add more cardio, and then you're actually getting into dangerous territory. So those kind of diets you've lost before you've even started, because if you start at the extreme end of the calorie spectrum, you've got nowhere to go in 2 to 3 weeks. So what would I do about that? You know, what would be a realistic way to start out with your diet and training? Well, not extreme. So I would try and work out, there's many calculators online. I would use one of those calculators to try and work out my basic calorie needs for a day. So they'll ask you things like your height, weight, sex, activity levels during the day, all that kind of stuff. And they might all ask slightly different questions because a lot of the calculators differ in the way they'll add this up. They will spit out a calorie quantity for the day, and that will be around where you should start. So if you put in your details and it spits out that you should be having 3,500 calories a day, and that's your basic rate to maintain your current body weight. Now you want to lose some body fat, I would just knock about 200 calories off of that. So the next stage would be, I would look what I was eating, you know, what's my diet going to be, and I would look to be eating about 3,300 calories if my maintenance calories for the day was 3,500. That way I'm able to retain muscle tissue, I've got enough energy to still train, and I can also tailor that further when I need to. In 2 or 3 weeks time, when things start slowing down, I've got room to maneuver. I haven't painted myself into that corner. Then I would make some adjustments, and if it was me starting in January, I would start in a staggered way. So I didn't it wasn't too shocking to the system. So the first week or 2 weeks of January, I would just dial my calories back by 200 per day, and I would get used to eating this new diet that I've started on. I wouldn't even bother going to the gym yet. Once you've done that, I would then go to the gym, sticking on the diet that you've got yourself, that calorific amount, and then you can go to the gym. You're now going to burn more calories by doing stuff in the gym, and that's going to give you 2 or 3 weeks more of fat loss. So now we've given ourselves about 4 to 6 weeks of fat loss just by staggering those two things. We're kind of fooling the body, because as soon as it starts making adjustments to tailor its metabolic rate, we're going to add something else to it to burn a bit more. So I would start going to the gym, and I would be doing maybe 15 minutes cardio every time I went there, and then weights as well. And that's because we want to be able to move those goals. If I start doing an hour and 30 cardio every time I go to the gym, it's going to be very hard to increase that as time goes on, because you've got time constraints, obviously, and there's, you know, the fact that it would just absolutely wipe you out, especially if, like me, you're in middle age and onward. We've only got so much energy every day to be able to use, and you can easily get overtrained. So I would start with just the 15 minutes. And then again, in 2 to 3 weeks, I would make an adjustment. I would take another 200 calories off my diet. So now we're doing 15 minutes every time we go to the gym, plus our weight sessions. And we're now down 400 calories a day. So we're buying ourselves another 2 to 3 weeks of fat loss. Once 2 or 3 weeks goes by again, I would then make a change to my cardio, and I would be adding maybe 10 or 15 minutes of cardio. So I'm going from 15 minutes to 30 minutes cardio. So you get the idea. We're staggering those changes, so we're buying ourselves more and more time that we've got really good fat loss going on. And before you know it, you know, 6 months will have gone by, and by then you will have a pretty good diet. You will be in pretty good shape, and you will be much more used to what you should be doing in the gym and what you should be doing diet wise to be able to maintain where you are. You will also at that point be able to look in the mirror and notice, you know, a significant change in your body fat percentage. You will notice maybe some muscle gain. You will feel a lot better, a lot healthier, and that's going to keep you coming back for more. So we haven't given ourselves such a massive shock to the system in the first 2 or 3 weeks that we just feel like we want to back away, because everything in those first 2 or 3 weeks, your brain is going to be sending out signals. Your subconscious is going to be screaming at you saying, don't bother with this gym. It'll give you a bunch of reasons why. That little voice in the back of your head will be saying, oh, you're too old for this. You know, you don't need to look good. You can just relax. Why don't you go and sit down and have a glass of wine? There's no need to do this. You walked around a lot today. Why are you bothering doing some running now? You know, all those little funny voices will be telling you those things, because actually your body wants homeostasis. Your brain will be trying to fight for homeostasis, and that is to stay the same. It survived this long doing exactly the same thing every day. You've been given it nice dopamine hits, which is the body's favourite drug of choice, and every time you selected a donut or sat on the sofa and flicked through Netflix or scrolled through Instagram or whatever it is, you're giving yourself dopamine rewards. The problem with them is that they're short lasting, and they just don't give us anything other than a good feeling. You know, they actually make you worse over time because they're mainly sedentary. Basically your body's rewarding you for not burning calories, because the last thing it wants to do is to actually make an effort. So it will give you some dopamine every time you sit around on your bum and stare at a screen, and it will give you some dopamine every time you stuff high calorie foods into your mouth. And neither of those have got long-term benefits to you. And actually the result of that dopamine chasing is depression, obesity, disease, and probably an early death. So like, it's the worst possible thing to select, but that is what your body, your subconscious is going to be telling you to select. The only way I found out of that is to really try and battle through it, and doing that staggered plan is kind of like doing a computer game where you go from, you know, like a level 1, and then you can see the level 2 on the horizon, and you kind of head for that. So each little step up makes you feel a bit better and a bit better, and you'll really feel that you're getting somewhere. And before you know it, you know, you've got an awesome video game character or whatever that's really powerful. The same thing happens here, is that we're just going to do this in stages, and that will sort of take up time with your brain. You won't be able to keep worrying about, oh, I haven't got anywhere, because you'll think, great, I'm at stage 3 now. You know, I'm now on 400 calorie reduction, and I'm doing my whatever 20-30 minutes cardio per day every time I go to the gym, and that will give you a sense of achievement that you've got there. And if you keep setting yourself those shorter term goals every 2 to 3 weeks, that gives you something to really work toward, rather than just saying to yourself, oh, by next summer I'm going to look really good, because that is a long-term goal, And it's very, very hard for the brain to compute that, you know, and put it in, and to make any sense of it in terms of how to organize yourself leading up to that. It's like me saying to myself, right, I'm going to give myself a year and get rich. I'm never going to get wealthy that way. You would have to structure some sort of plan that leads to that, you know. So to say to yourself, I'm going to go off and read about economics. I'm going to then start investing this small amount of money in the stock exchange, and I'm going to try and get a job doing that, etc., etc. Those small stages lead up to your big end result, and they're a lot easier to achieve. Last of all, and this one's mainly for the guys, it's probably injuries stop people coming to the gym, especially as you get older. And a lot of that is down to ego. And I see this a ton in gyms in January. And I've seen it actually all year round. I see guys that come into the gym, they clearly don't train. You can see their bodies are untrained. They're not particularly strong. A few of them are overweight. And I think to kind of make themselves feel better, they handle some weights that are way beyond them, and they're using very bad form to move those weights around, and they're obviously quite pleased with themselves that they've been able to do that. But you're only going to be able to get away with that for so long. You are going to start picking up injuries, especially older guys like me. You're going to get joint problems, you're going to get severe back problems, and those things will take you out of the game. You know, if you really screw your back up at the gym, you're done for months, and the likelihood of you coming back and doing that again is pretty low, especially if you think that's now a place that I've caused myself a serious injury and it's cost me money because I couldn't work or whatever. It probably put you off gym for life. Don't be that guy. Don't be the ego guy that goes in there and tries to deadlift like ridiculous amounts of weight. Or when I say ridiculous, I mean ridiculous for you, the individual. It's a staggered approach. Again, there's a big surprise, right? So the first week or two of lifting weights in the gym, just go in there and move some weights around that you can easily move around, because your body hasn't done this stuff before. You don't want to cause yourself to have delayed onset muscle soreness that's so crippling that you can't even get off the toilet the next day. You know, there's time to do that much, much later on. If you really, really get into the gym and you're like, right, I want to become, you know, a semi-pro bodybuilder or a powerlifter or something, sure, then maybe there's a reason to kind of train to that degree. But right at the beginning, that's not a good time. Your tendons are not going to be used to it. You're going to severely damage something. You also end up just looking foolish, because people that are well trained in gyms and are, you know, watching what's going on, they will see that you're obviously using bad form. You're lifting way beyond your means. Most of those guys are never going to tell you that. In fact, a lot of gyms don't like people giving unsolicited advice, which I think is fair enough. That's a good thing. But what tends to happen then is that you get guys doing dangerous stuff. Mostly guys. Girls are pretty good at this stuff. You know, they don't have to have this ego issue. But, you know, you get these guys doing this dangerous stuff and no one's going to tell them any different. So they just carry on doing it. And it really irks me, actually, that the trainers don't pull them. So you see the trainers walking around the gym, or the gym guys that are looking after the equipment or whatever. They know what's right and wrong, and they're not saying anything to these guys. They're just happily taking their money. And that's bad business, man. You know, you should really be taking care of your clients. And if your clients are doing stuff that you can see is going to give them injuries in the future, for God's sake, go over and tell them, man, you know, that they're doing it wrong. So, you know, if these guys are doing these things to try and kind of impress other people, they're really not impressing anyone worth impressing, because anyone who knows anything about gyms and weightlifting is not going to be impressed by some sort of untrained dude picking up overly heavy weights and then doing terrible form factor with them. We've probably all seen it online. A lot of the videos, they seem to be getting like insta famous, and I've seen some of these guys that I'm sure are like trolling, but they're just using terrible form, picking up ridiculous heavy weights. The leg press is always a favourite. You get some guy that looks like he's been living in McDonald's for the last year, jumps on a leg press and is pushing ridiculous amount of weights for quarter reps on there. Like, anyone can do that, you know, like anyone who trains in the gym knows you can sit on the leg press and do those little quarter reps with your legs. Your legs are tremendously strong, especially in that motion. The first sort of quarter of that rep, they're virtually strong enough to push a bloody car uphill. So, you know, stacking a leg press out and doing quarter reps on that isn't a big deal. Not at all. You know, even like a middle-aged petite lady should be able to put a lot of weight on that leg press and do quarter reps. If you're going to get on it, do proper reps with proper form, and then I guarantee you're not going to be pressing so much weight and you're not going to be risking injury. And in terms of risking injury, if you're new to the gym and you're there for New Year, for God's sake, ask someone who knows what they're doing to show you around and get you doing some exercises properly, because I've seen way too many people just work it out as they go along, and they're endangering themselves. You know, they're going to have a serious accident if they carry on just making stuff up on the fly, because we come to think of gyms as these safe places that are just going to make you more healthy, but actually weightlifting, especially things like benching, with bad form and not knowing what you're doing, if you haven't got a spotter, that can lead to death. You know, there's been people that have died on the bench, dropped a weight across their chest or across their neck, and they don't walk out that gym ever again, because that's them done. So don't be that guy. Get advice, get a spotter, get someone who in the gym that you can chat to. All the guys in the gym that are really working hard and look in amazing shape, they might look mean or whatever, but I guarantee if you go up to those guys and ask them some advice or ask them for a spot, they will be super kind and super helpful to you. You know, don't ever think that those guys are just going to tell you to get lost and that they're going to sort of judge you for being new. They will be really, really happy to share some decent info with you. Last but not least, I would always say you can't out-train a bad diet. So if you're going into 2024 and your New Year's resolution is, I'm going to start going to the gym, but you're not making any changes to your diet whatsoever, you've got that totally the wrong way round. The other way round you can get away with. So if you're going to say, I'm going to change my diet, but I'm not going to go to a gym, you're actually going to end up looking really good if you keep that good diet going. You're going to have a body recomposition, you're going to lose a lot of body fat, and your muscle tone will be more noticeable. So you're actually going to be able to get into good shape that way. You'll be quite athletic shape or quite thin, but you certainly won't be obese if you keep that good diet going. If you just go to the gym and you're obese, then you will still be obese on a bad diet and going to the gym. And you'll still look the same a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. Nothing will change. You might get a little bit stronger, but you're still going to look, you know, the same as you did before. You can't out-train the bad diet. And my diet advice to people, first and foremost, would be, if you drink alcohol even a few times a month, quit alcohol. That's like the number one way to change your body composition. That's probably the most detrimental thing that people do, is drink alcohol. It's empty calories. It fills you with water weight. It messes with your hormones. It reduces testosterone, increases estrogen levels, makes you look bloated, and other than the fact it's bad for you in many other ways, and, you know, causes dangerous diseases and causes you to act like an idiot and possibly be aggressive and stupid and all those other things, it guaranteed will make you look like crap. So if you are going to cut out one thing out of your diet and you drink, just quit alcohol. And I know people don't want to hear that. People want to go down the gym and go out all weekend and smash it in the pub as well. Well, they're probably going to look like crap. And yes, I've met a few guys that get away with it. They're genetic freaks. They've got very, very active jobs like scaffolders and roofers and stuff like that. Scaffolders and roofers always like a drink as far as I can see. And those guys can get in the gym and they can do pretty good in the gym. And they go out and drink like crazy. But then they work their asses off all week on really hard physical labour. And that doesn't guarantee they're not going to get sick later on in life. They're going to pay for that partying at some point. But the majority of people, if they drink, they're going to get fat, they're going to look bad, they're going to feel bad. So quit that. Other than that, you know, the easiest dietary changes to make are quitting the most obvious stuff. Think of the things that you like the most, that you binge on the most, probably crisps, chocolates, cakes, biscuits, and just quit them. Just quit them and have them once a week on a cheat day. So call it a Saturday, have a few of your favourite things on a Saturday, and the rest of the week you absolutely don't eat those things at all. That's the most simple way I can put a good diet to you. I do, if you're if you go back over my videos in the lifestyle section, you'll find a load of diet stuff there. I've got diet stuff listed out there. If you're a member, which is like £2 a month or something, you can actually download the diet Word files, which have a full breakdown of my diet in there. All the calorie quantities and everything are in there as well. But if you just want to make some easy and basic changes, those are the changes to make. You know, cut the alcohol, cut out the obvious naughty treats, and just stick to your basic diet. Taking that one stage further, cut out the convenience food. So if you're not cooking anything from scratch and you're cooking everything out of the oven from these sort of boxes that you buy from Iceland or whatever, they're going to make you look like crap. They're also going to make you feel like crap. Cut those out. Start cooking stuff from scratch. Buy some lean mince, buy some decent cuts of meat, cook it up with some veg, rice and whatever. That's going to be 100% better than what you're doing with your convenience foods. Guys, I hope that's given you a sort of easy overview for what you can do for 2024 in terms of diet, in terms of training. I'm not going to break down each section into exactly what you should be doing, because this is just about setting those basic goals to start with. As you develop and as you get a bit more serious in the months to come, then maybe go back and have a look at some of my earlier videos in that lifestyle section, and you can really start getting into setting up your training properly, setting up your diet properly. But it would be good just to make a start and just to make those basic changes to begin with, and you will really see decent results out of that. Take care, have a great 2024. I wish you all health, happiness, prosperity, love, etc. And I hope you all have a great start. Take care now. Bye bye.